Good day, loves. Good day. Welcome back to the Holistic Freedom Secrets podcast. This is episode 8, and we are diving into something cool. As you can see, Soul has his book, which is so young. Like, so proud of you, babe. I'm so proud of you. This is a phenomenal work that you put together of truth seeker gems throughout. And it's called Culture Control, as you can see. Um, yeah. So
Culture control, why the love of money is objectively the root of all evil. Evil.
as Homie blinks slowly and opens her eyes.
Guys, I wrote a book, guys. Okay, it's a real book. It's not blank pages. Okay, it has illustrations, some of which I did myself, some of which I borrowed from others for educational purposes only. Here's one that I did myself on this page. Check it out. Check it out.
Yes. So today it's relevant because we're talking about truth in action and how natural law shapes life and leadership. Yep. So if that is something that resonates with you, which if you are here, it resonates with you because low key, you have your family, you have your kids that you want to make sure are, having a good set of role models, and you feel like you should also be in that set of people that they look up to because we want to pass on the values that are most dear to our hearts, that align with freedom and that align with truth, and that takes a little bit of order, maybe a lot of order. It takes some order in order to come into the freedom and maintain it, right? Like how you can clean your house one time and then just neglect it, and it's all this chaos and all these clothes and junk piling up everywhere, and then the order is gone, and now you feel bound to the junk and the clutter in your home. Freedom is gone because we didn't maintain that order, right? So caring for ourselves, caring for others, it takes a looking at what are the laws of the universe, what are the laws of nature, not that actually, no matter what we do, are holding sway, and how can we move with our goals in alignment with those laws, right? Yeah. So we're on the mission to holistic freedom, and let's just kind of like peel back some of the layers here.
Let's do it. So there is a wonderful, wonderful person out there who is 700 billion times more qualified than I to teach about natural law. But we're going to go over some of the things that we learned from him. His name is Mark Passio. He is not the first and he is not the only teacher of natural law.
Oh, not at all.
I just consider him the best. And and then well, let me just tell you like why I consider him the best. The first presentation online on YouTube that I ever saw of Mark Passio, he was breaking down the movie trilogy, the series The Matrix 1, 2, and 3. This was years before The Matrix 4 came out. And the way that he broke it down was in accordance with the lessons that he teaches in his personal capacity regarding natural law. He is a phenomenal presentation creator, meaning when he makes presentations in some sort of software like PowerPoint, I don't think he uses PowerPoint, but something like PowerPoint to make slides and teach from those slides Everything from his color choices, like the themes of the colors, as well as the colors on the individuals, illustrations, um, to the way that the words that he puts on the slide that he teaches from, to uh, the animations that for some slides are super simple, and for other ones, everything is animated, and where he chooses to put the simple ones and to put the everything so that you're not distracted, but also you remain engaged. Best presentation creator I have ever seen, at least when it comes to somebody working in their own personal capacity by themselves, largely for what he does. So shout out to Mark Passio, MarkPassio. Check his work out, and we're gonna get into how natural law fits into all of our lives and whatnot. So when you hear natural law, when I hear natural law, unless you know about it, the first thing that you think is the laws of Darwinian evolution, right? That's the first thing that comes to mind, is like survival of the fittest, and
That's all.
hey, Instagram, survival of the fittest, and like uh, survival based thinking. Okay, I don't want to complicate things, but that's usually what comes to mind when people say natural law, unless you really know already what it is. But in contrary to that initial thought of what natural law is, it has nothing to do with Darwinian theory
at all.
and it has nothing to do with survival based thinking. In fact, it has everything to do with your higher mind based thinking, the taking control of your emotions and responsibility of your responses to stimuli and to situations and circumstances. Natural law is a set of binding, non man made, immutable, unchanging consequences or conditions that are tied to our actions that we take in the natural world. Okay, it is the often called karmic law or moral law. It is the
And universal law.
conditions that govern the consequences to our behaviors in regard to objective morality, or in connection with objective morality. That's what natural law really is. So when we do behaviors, when we initiate violence against somebody and go, ha, and run away, there's a natural consequence for that. And see, like Omi, she was gonna get me, but then she decided, no, I'm gonna let that go. Um, when you initiate violence against somebody, there's a consequence, right? What goes around comes around. That consequence may not come the same day, may not come the same year, but there will be some sort of consequence for it. When you engage in lying all the time and deception all the time, you will experience consequences for that. What goes around comes around. When you commit actual crimes, actual transgressions where there's a victim, what goes around comes around, there is consequences for that. And the law, the natural law that governs, the law that governs this is what we call natural law. That it's built into the fabric of the universe. And the fact that most people don't know this, or people that have heard this don't want to believe it, is largely due to the the intangible nature of natural law.
And if I may,
Mhm.
I like to just paint a picture, right? So I think of it kind of like, if you ever saw a record, like, our generation got records and went to the record store, just for the nostalgia, and had a record player maybe, because our parents had that, and it's kind of cool now for the retro effect, to have some vinyl. But when it comes to a record, it has an A side and a B side. And when I think of natural law, I think of it through two different lenses. The A side would be the seven uh, hermetic principles, um, and on the B side would be like, this is what a right is and this is what a wrong is. So how the consequences of our actions are governed. That's kind of how I think of it. And so I'm thinking maybe for simplicity we can talk about the A side kind of briefly and then talk about the B side. Because the A side, those seven principles, seven universal principles, these are like weaved into the fabric of life. And it's kind of more like the framework that everything moves in and out of.
Finesse. Sorry, I got excited. Somebody on Instagram that I know. Peace, peace, peace.
Right on. And then the B side, on the other hand, is like, okay, when actions are taken,
Right.
here's how we know whether it's a right or a wrong, objectively. And here and we know that according to the principles, the seven principles,
The A side.
the A side, when we do any of the actions that are wrongs, then the consequences follow.
So yeah, so let's do it. So largely unknown to the general populace, there are seven principles that were pointed out and studied and taught by Thoth the Atlantean, or Hermes Trismegistus, which is um, largely theorized to be a reincarnation of Thoth the Atlantean. But it had nothing to do with Thoth the Atlantean himself as an individual. He just studied and taught these things. He discovered and taught for humanity these things that existed well before he did.
Yeah.
Well before there was an earth for beings to inhabit. These principles were already a part of the universe, similarly to electromagnetism and gravity and metaphysics, just the all of the natural law. This is just
He didn't
one
come up with
aspect.
it.
Right. He didn't create these principles.
He just talked about it.
Yeah. So
And
so
that
even the
makes
term
sense.
hermetic principles, that's just talking about the students that gave out this information to the public. It's not talking about the creator of the principles. Creator of the principles is the creator of the universe. Just like the creator of gravity is the creator of the universe. Okay. So that's really important to make that distinction. It's not something to glaze over and, okay, I get it. It's like, no. We have to be intentional about thinking about this in ways. This is not man-made. This is not theory. This is not theory, right? It's not concept. This is a part of our universe that we occupy. So the first of these principles is called mentalism, which can be summed up in the fact that all is mind. And that's just a great way of saying that we all exist inside of a mental realm of the creative force. So our physical interactions are observed within our mind and are observed within the great, you could say, the mind of the universe itself, or the mind of the creator of the universe itself. The second principle is correspondence, which is a law that can be summed up in the old ancient adage, as above, so below, as below, so above, as within, so without, as without, so within. The law of correspondence. Well, you can get the correspondence, right?
Yeah. We're not gonna go deep on everything, but just to see if you can
Cool.
get the
There's also the law of vibration. Nothing in the universe is still. There's the law of polarity. which doesn't mean opposites. It means poles. There is a supposed north a kind of a north and a kind of a south to all things. There's the principle of rhythm, the law of rhythm. There's the law of cause and effect, and there's the law of gender. And these 7 principles make up the what Tensi was calling the A side of natural law, meaning these things together simultaneously weave the consequences, the natural consequences of all actions, especially and differently for intelligent life forms like human beings than intelligent but less intelligent life forms like that of the animal kingdom. The animal kingdom are under natural law, but it interacts with them differently as their mind, right? Like the principle of mentalism is at a different stage of development than someone, a being as intelligent or with the capacity as high as human beings. Hey, baby. Hey. She's giving me a big smile. So that kind of answers like what is natural law, and is the most simple answer is it's the law that is binding, unchanging, non-man-made, that binds us to the consequences to our actions, to the natural, what goes around comes around to our actions. That's what natural law is. So one of the things that Mark Passio makes very clear is that this is some of the most occulted information in the world.
And occulted means hidden. Boom shakalaka.
Yes. This is some of the most hidden information in the world. So we all know that there's information that the general public does not know about. Some even believe the general public shouldn't know about when it comes to science and technology, when it comes to inventions that could have changed, the very lives that we live, especially here in America, and when it comes to psychology and how the mind is influenced. There's information that very small groups of people have that the general public just does not have and doesn't even have access to a lot of this information.
Yeah. I'm gonna step over off to the side to, bounce a little bit with Omi. So that's why I'm coming out the frame, y'all. Sending so much love. We'll be back soon.
Surely. When discussing natural law, when discussing even the Hermetic principles, it's great to keep in mind that most people do not really have an experiential, living, developing concept of what it means to be to have our behaviors governed by a karmic consequence. And in keeping this in mind, it's good to be honest about how much we individually know about the consequences to our actions and about how natural law is a thing, is an objective reality, and is not a man-made interpretation of objective reality. It simply is, again, just like gravity, just like any natural force, it is a natural force that corresponds with our behaviors. And so in moving deeper into one's understanding of natural law, you start to have conversations about it. One of the recent conversations that I was having with someone who is definitely committed to seeking truth and not in the wrong morally for what they believe, but has some aspects of natural law a little bit twisted, but in a way that's very common. Is this person was believing that you can do actions that are in alignment with natural law, and you can do actions that are not in alignment with natural law. And this is simply not the case. And hopefully the way that we've been talking about it so far in the episode lets you know exactly why this is not the case. It's almost like trying to say, I'm going to do this action in alignment with gravity, or I'm going to do this action in alignment with aerodynamics, right? You can't be in alignment with something that you can't be misaligned with. You can't move in accordance with something that you can't move out of accordance with, or disregarding being in accordance with. It just is. And what the real way to say what they were trying to say is, and the real way to think about it is, I'm going to make sure that I'm in alignment with my goals according to the consequences that may befall me for my actions because natural law exists. So I'm going to, for example, not lie as much as I can. I'm going to be in alignment with truth. I'm going to be in alignment with the non-aggression principle. Do no harm. I'm going to be in alignment with not shucking my responsibility for my own mental and physical and emotional protection. So taking no stuff. And so there's truth, do no harm, take no stuff. And I'm going to not deceive anyone along the way as best I can. This is doing that is being in alignment with the goals that you have, knowing and keeping at the forefront the principles that you are living by on a day-to-day basis as you pursue your goals. So you can be misaligned with your goals and your destination. You cannot be misaligned with natural law. Natural law is simply the laws that govern the consequences to our behavior. And that's all that it is. Now, how does natural law really tie into morality and moral understanding? Well, firstly, it is widely misunderstood exactly what morality is. Morality is not subjective. It has nothing to do with, or it changes not for one's preferences and one's belief system, and is not man-made. Morality is not man-made. There's nothing that man can do to create or destroy moral truth. Okay. Secondly, morality does not help us understand good and bad in the conventional kind of way. That is the easiest way and most simple way to speak about it. But morality instead helps us understand what the consequences will be for our actions in accord with, or with in mind, natural law. Okay. And that's the seven principles, as well as the time that it takes to come around there's a bit of a time gap between you doing actions and you receiving the karmic consequences, good or bad, for those actions. So as we act in the world, there is a natural law consequence that will come around, and understanding morality helps us align our actions with the consequences that we want to receive, the good consequences, or the consequences that are aligned with our goals that we want to receive by doing these actions. And it helps us strategize and all of these things. That's what morality helps us do. It does not merely indoctrinate us as to this is good and this is bad. Although, again, that is the easiest way to talk about it. And morality is not subjective. Again, very important sort of beat this into our heads. There's nothing subjective about morality. When and the way that Mark Passio teaches it is also very simple. When your actions do not initiate violence, coercion, trespass, um, take someone's life, or deceive or steal from someone, then your actions are on the good side of morality. When you steal, commit murder or violence, um, and violence is different from defense, right? There is authentic, genuine defense, which is a part of your responsibility and your right to protect yourself and the innocent. But so when you are doing actions that are initiating violence, deceiving, stealing, coercing, or trespassing, then you are on the bad side of morality, meaning the consequences that will befall you after some time will be misaligned with your goals. Okay, and that's how the relationship works with natural law, moral law, you could say, and our behavior. So hopefully that was a very simple way of thinking about it. I made that up on the fly. I speak about it very heavily in this book, but I don't want to just read from the book only. Uh, because I wrote it, so I want you guys to read it. But I will say that in the second chapter of the book, I talk about the four major categories, pardon me, of wrong that one can do. Okay. And that is bodily harm, murder, theft, and deception. And deception, of course, has an asterisk because it can involve manipulating somebody based on what you tell them. It can involve pushing somebody to do something that's like under your influence, pushing children or even people older than you that like you have influence over to do something at the risk of their reputation or something like that for your personal gain only. Creating a contract, even making someone sign a contract that's not really readily understood by them or by ordinary people. All of these things, and of course, a million other things, can fall under deception, right? Deception, the intent, and whether or not you are deceiving somebody knowingly holds the weight in the consequences that you will receive for your actions. But those are the things that are aligned with the quote unquote bad side of moral law, the bad side of morality. And everything else that does not initiate violence, that does not steal, that does not, all of these things, those are aligned with um, the good side of morality. Okay. And so this conversation that we had today in this episode is of the utmost importance, as again, this is some of the most occulted or hidden information on the face of the earth. Hidden by who? Hidden by those that have the information, either for the purposes of they don't think humanity is ready for it, or for the purposes of they don't want humanity to free itself from the binds of my control. When you are in the know when it comes to natural law, when you have great understanding as to what governs the consequences of your actions and what actions are actually good and not just good because it's legal, right? Or actually bad and not just bad because it's illegal, right? There are many things that are illegal that are completely good, like exposing the crimes that government commits is illegal. You are not allowed to do that, and they will throw you in a cage or take your life for doing so, right? Julian Assange with WikiLeaks exposed war crimes, among other things, among cyber crimes, war crimes, a whole bunch of stuff. And he was put in solitary confinement for years. So, yet he did something that is completely moral. So the ambiguity of legality versus morality is a way that they obscure the information, the true information that you can just discover yourself by living and applying what you learn from nature, right? Just like you learn gravity from nature every time you fall down when you're learning how to walk, just like you learn morality by what goes around comes around as you get older and as you start to realize that your actions have consequences and you can align your actions with the consequences that you want. These things are discoverable through experimentation and just through experience, yet the information gets obscured with these systems of control that are pulled, are like a wool pulled over our eyes so that we don't see correctly, or so that we see only what they want us to see. But yeah, so I really do hope that this inspires you to seek out more information regarding natural law. There is another side of this conversation that has to do with the law of freedom, which is you could say a subset law under the big umbrella natural law or moral law. The law of freedom is a smaller umbrella which governs the condition of or degree of freedom that a given society, as an aggregate of that society, not just individuals within it, but as an aggregate of that society, is experiencing at any given time. Okay, and the law of freedom is basically that the more moral a society acts, the more morally good a society aligns its actions with, the less violence and coercion and deception and murder and theft that's going on in a given society, the more free that society will be as a natural law consequence. The less moral or the less morally good a society is, the more slavery that society will inevitably, by natural law consequence, be experienced as a condition of that society. Now, again, that doesn't mean every individual. It means as an aggregate. So there will be different degrees to which individuals, natural law consequences, right, lead them to. But in the last thing that I'll say is, if you would kindly go to our link tree. Okay, for Facebook, it's the link tree in our about. For Instagram, it's the link tree in our bio. And for YouTube, it is the link tree in the description of this video. Get yourself a copy of Culture Control: Why the Love of Money is Objectively the Root of All Evil, and learn about what evil really is, what freedom really is, and how our culture is controlled. And we will see you all on Monday for B-Day, for the next episode. Peace and love. Oh yeah, and like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow the page, share this out to somebody who needs to hear it, and meet us in the comments with what you learned today. Peace.